My name is Darlene Carmichael, and I will be interviewing Miss Esther Jean. Esther Jean Longo. Did I pronounce your name right?
It's okay. Ernestine.
Ernestine Blango. Today's date is April 23rd, 2024, and this is her story. My first question to ask you, Miss Blanco, is when and where were you born?
I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa, in 1981.
Okay.
Yeah, April 29th, 1981.
Did you grow up there?
So I lived there till I was about 6 years old. And then my father actually had gotten an opportunity to come study in the United States. So we ended up immigrating to join him at about 6, 7, when I was 6 or 7 years old. So I
Okay.
started my journey there, but grew up mostly in the United States.
Did your parents or guardian work outside of the home?
Yes, so my dad, he worked like a bit of like he was a taxi driver, but also worked in the education system as a substitute teacher. And then my mom, she did a lot of like odd jobs, but ended up more in that certified nursing assistant role as and doing that for and still does that now.
That's great. My mom does the same thing too. So,
Yeah.
yay. What did you remember about the home you were raised in?
So for me, I actually moved around a lot. So there's not one place that I can say I like specifically remember. Like when we immigrated to the US, we used to live in Philadelphia. And so it was like an attached house, and we had like a small garden and a neighbor right next door, a really big porch. So we always used to have like friends and things over because that was just kind of a very social thing to do, like sit on people's porches. That's like a just a Philadelphia culture thing. So I remember that. And then that was the last time we had a home because when we transferred to Maryland and Virginia, we lived in a lot of different apartment buildings. And so I was in Alexandria for a minute, lived in Greenbelt, moved back to Alexandria. So kind of back and forth before I came to DC. So there's not really much memorable about those other homes. So I would say that probably that first home that we had in Philadelphia is the most memorable.
Okay. How would you describe your childhood and teenage years prior to college?
So I grew up at a time period. So I mentioned I immigrated to the US. It was actually really difficult because as an African coming into America, there was a lot of different transitions that I had to do related to just not understanding what it meant to be Black in America. And coming from an immigrant family, there was a lot of tensions between like immigrants at the time and African Americans that were in that culture. So I had a really tough childhood. Like there was a lot of just tensions between myself and classmates. My first school, I had gotten attacked. They had to actually relocate me to another school. And so the first one was mostly minority. The second one was like I had to be bused there very far, all white neighborhood. They actually still had like pools and things where Black people not like labeled, but it was intended like they couldn't come. I was probably one of a handful of people of a different culture or different race and background in the school. So it was a lot of questions around like, oh, you come from Africa, so where do you guys live in the jungle? And it was a really hard transition. Then my parents were both working class, so they were always working. They didn't really have time to really explain a lot of things to us. So we just kind of had to learn these things and adapt as we go. So part of that too meant we lost our like language because to be able to speak English better, it was harder to do that with our native language. And so like they would enforce us to speak more English and not speak that. So me and my brother, when I say we, kind of lost that as part of our growing up in America. And then it was just, I've moved around a lot. So my parents ended up separating. and we just went through a cycle of different schools, different environments, and different things. So it was a really interesting, challenging period pre-college.
I'm sorry to hear that you got attacked when you first moved here.
Yeah.
Um, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Originally wanted to be a lawyer, so I'd always wanted to do something in law, particularly immigration law, just because coming into the US, I saw a lot of the challenges that some immigrants experience, particularly because not everyone was able to get a green card and be able to like establish themselves, get health care. And so wanted to be in a place where I could do something about that and offer what, the American dream is the American dream within America, but it's also a lot of other people's dreams as well. And so that was my original. I actually wanted to do pre-law when I went to Trinity and then wanted to go into to become a lawyer.
Okay. What brought you to Trinity? And was it your first choice of college?
It was not my first choice. Honestly, there was two things. Trinity was the one school that offered me more scholarship and opportunities to stay within. It was far enough away, right? Because it was in DC, and at the time we lived in Maryland. I was in Greenbelt, Maryland at the time, so it's like, okay, they need to like drive on the highway to get here. So it's far enough away. I didn't know so much about like it was an all-girl school Catholic background. I actually did not have that much background on that. But my aunt, my mom's younger sister, got her master's at Trinity. She had her master, and she had a lot of nice things to say, like about the experience and how she loved the school. So, like, that was one of the reasons that I had applied and decided to go to Trinity. Because the other opportunities I had, they were just, unfortunately, just weren't affordable for me to be able to figure out how to do it. And Trinity kind of really worked with me to find a package that would work.
Okay. Were you the first person in your family to attend college?
No, so my dad, he attended college from our country. So he went to what they in Sierra Leone, there's a college called Frobe College. And he attended that college. And then when he came to the United States, he was pursuing like a master's level education. So he had a bachelor's and then he had a master's. So like in his family, education was really highly regarded. And he's just someone that always had a thirst for education and hunger. My mom, coming from Sierra Leone, did not have the same opportunity, right, in gender. She actually, when she married my dad, it was because her father couldn't afford to provide for her education. And then my dad at the time was well established and was able to continue to um, pay for, because there it's more privatized. So you have to pay even for elementary school and things like that. So she actually only finished a high school degree and never went to college. But we have other members of our family too. Like I mentioned, my aunt who've gone and gotten different degrees.
Okay. How well did your high school experience prepare you for Trinity?
Pretty well. I went to Eleanor Roosevelt High School. They are very good at preparing students for college. I was in some of the advanced classes, so I even had a chance to take one or two like pre-college courses to be able to see kind of the rigor, the discipline that you would need to kind of manage this type of like experience. And for me, college was always kind of like not a question. It was always like, that is something I have to do to get to where I needed, right? Because I wanted to go into law. I knew that I would be able needed to seek a diploma, and they have a lot of different advanced courses that really do prep you for college and really push you to really know what it's going to be like, the kind of like rigor that you need to instill in yourself to study and prepare
Okay.
for college. Mhm.
I went to a school similar to that, but yeah. How would you describe your experience at Trinity?
Oh, I love Trinity. I mean, when you first moved in, it was the first time too. So I, I, as I mentioned, I have one brother, so I didn't even grow up with sisters. I never had lived apart from my mom, even with cousins. I've never been around other women in school. Um, I think Trinity was just a perfect place for me. I am someone who's kind of an introvert, but also I love learning and understanding history. It gave me the opportunity to really shine and push myself because just even the week that we were moving in, they were trying to like organize us and they were like, oh, you guys need to pick class officers. And someone just randomly asked me, do you want to be the secretary? And I didn't even know what I was signing myself up for. I was like, okay, sure. And we were a really close group. Like my roommate, neighbor, I'm still friends with some of the folks till today that we all were part of like that freshman class that we were. I like the sisterhood. I like the traditions that Trinity had that we celebrated. I like that we had like that buddy. So like even my sister that I got from there is still a good friend of mine. Like having that just like sorority like kind of just a lot of camaraderie, and we were very close class. Like we did everything together, went to lunch together, classes together, went out together, explored the city together. And then the teachers honestly were amazing. So like some of my first classes, the things that I studied, the things that I was learning, and the fact that they also had this like lens on gender and what you could do as a woman to really empower you to understand that you had the ability to kind of make a change. So Trinity kind of lit a fire in me in that like in that direction, both political, which would where I ended up going more political than legal. It really was the first like stomping ground to really find my voice too. Because I was a little shyer. Like I was more book smart than I was like public speaking and leading things. So I felt comfortable at Trinity to be able to do things and speak out and felt like I was in a safe space, even challenging like my fellow um uh colleagues or classmates on different like hard topics, right? Like I can still remember a conversation that we had about invading Iraq after 9/11, right? Because we were all there when those walls fall down and how very like impassioned some people were in being able to express our opinions in ways that wasn't, you know, hurting anyone's feelings, but just having a very educated conversation about it. That's the kind of space that we had at Trinity.
Okay, it was like a healthy debate in a sense. Mhm.
Mhm.
Did you experience any challenges at Trinity as a woman of color?
Not really. I think at the time that and sorry, Darlene, um let me just take her to her grandma real quick.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
you're okay. My question was to you, did you experience any challenges at Trinity as a woman of color?
Uh, Honestly, no, not for me. My own personal experience. When I feel like the time frame that we started Trinity was the time that Trinity started a little bit more intently in thinking about creating a more diverse culture, prioritizing diversity in both the like recruitment of students and also in the like experience that we had. So like my class was a mix of white, Hispanic, Black, different cultures, different races, different backgrounds, people from Dominican Republic, from different, just all different mix of women that I feel like I entered Trinity with. The only place that I may not have seen it translated more is in the classrooms because at that period there weren't a lot of like teachers of color at that time, and but it didn't in any way translate into any kind of hardship or that experience as a woman of color. Honestly, I didn't like see any difference in like my college experience, um, and didn't hear from anyone like that they were feeling that in my class anyways, in the cohort I worked with.
Okay. How welcoming was Trinity to gay students when you attended?
I think very open at the time because, well, I do think obviously as a Catholic school, they had some restrictions. I feel like it was more of you may not have talked about it and not saying like they had an open policy around it. But I feel like in the experience of just I had classmates who had relationships on campus. It was never like frowned upon, but it wasn't also anything that I think publicly they celebrated and embraced in a way, right? So I would say like and it's interesting at the time we didn't really talk too much about it, like as students as we were going through the experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did, did you have a mentor or role model at Trinity?
At Trinity, not really. I mean, I had favorite, like there were teachers that like Dr. McGinnis was someone that I would talk to and even engage even after um finishing her class, but I wouldn't say like in the formalities of a mentor. Um, I didn't have one, no.
Okay. What class did Dr. McGinnis teach, if you don't mind me
She
asking?
she taught a lot of the our political class. I can't remember the specific class. It was like women in politics or something like that. It was one of the honor classes that we took in our first year. And it went through a lot of different like biographies of different women that engaged in politics. So she was someone that I even took, I think, two classes with her. I can't remember what the second one was, but she, even to this day, we would meet up. She would like make time. We can write her, come by her door. I even feel like we've met her for an alumni. I'm not as close to her now throughout the years, but even post Trinity, we kept in close contact.
Did she help like any personal growth or contribute in any type of way?
I feel like for me, it was more like really trying to find like the direction I wanted to go, like my voice and some of the opinions and things. And when I first did come into Trinity, I struggled a little bit with like how you really take and summarize different things, like as you're approaching your essays and writing through when you're looking at like just historical moments. And I feel like she took the extra mile just to kind of really give me some notes and directions and ways that I can improve, particularly my written communicate, like ability to write um, different essays and really portray kind of my opinions. So she was very helpful in that. And I think what I also liked is like she really led her class through discourse, right? She never really expressed her own opinions and thoughts. She kind of really helped us have a space where we can just express and develop and understand our different opinions and thoughts about different things in class, right? And so it was through her too that I learned some stories that like really have inspired some of the like work that I do now. Um, like there was a story of a girl, I can't remember the name of the book, but it was a girl who had experienced female genital mutilation, and I think it was in Togo, and she had like immigrated to the United States, and there was um, organization at the time, a nonprofit legal organization that was helping her seek asylum in the U.S. And the story was so touching. I even almost when I reached out to the law, the organization, Tara Hari, um, Justice Center, I think is the name, to see if I can like intern there and go there. But that was one of the like things, like suggestions and stories and things that she knew I liked that she would help me just to like get more information, get more detail, talk through that. And it was even through her that I found out like that story was similar to an experience that women in Sierra Leone, which I had never even realized, like my mom and her siblings had gone through a similar experience, and it's very common in Sierra Leone.
Okay. Um, can you tell me any tell me about one or two historical moments that occurred while you was at Trinity that moved you emotionally? I did hear about Iraq, but if any other.
I mean, honestly, I think the first you just mentioned it. We all were at Trinity on campus when 9/11 happened. I think it was a moment that really brought us together as this class. And really, it was just experiencing something so big in the United States and then going through a process where the country was then also going to war in response of that. I think it really shaped a lot of us who had to be on campus and be there. Um, I think for me too, a lot of the different, and you probably know the names. I feel like my brain is just fogging of just some of uh, the traditional moments that they have. So like the cap and gown ceremonies and the different uh, when we sat around, like we used to decorate main hall, right? And every class had a banister that we would decorate and then come together and like sing different songs or have different moments with each other. That was, I can still actually remember that first year when we had to come together and think about how we were gonna, because we were at the top banister, right? Because it goes by freshmen were at the top and then it just like seniors were at the bottom in the circle. And they don't have it in the same way anymore, actually. I think they've changed it in the different years, but that was one of the moments that I think for all of us, that Trinity just became a place that was about a sisterhood, right? That really was about like bringing women together, merging a tradition of ways that we can, through these songs, through this moment, just be close together. So like that's something that I remember throughout the history. And it's something that doesn't exist in a lot of different campuses in the way that it existed at Trinity. Um, and I'm sure like there are moments that I don't know if there were any speakers that I could remember that had come on campus to talk to us. Um, but the only other thing is too, Trinity had a very um, good relationship with AmeriCorps. So a lot of us used to actually do and volunteer through that program. And again, that was an opportunity to also be able to give back within the community that surrounded us. So, right, like we're not just stuck on our campus, but we were able to interact with others around us and in the communities around us. So that was also um, for me. And again, has shaped the way because I work now more in the nonprofit sector. Like my whole career has always been in giving back and doing things that are charitable. And I think those are things that came through my experience at Trinity.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered my next question I was about to ask you.
Ah!
So I could just skip. What did you do? What did you do after receiving your undergraduate degree from Trinity?
So my very first job. So interestingly enough, I got an internship while I was at Trinity that was working with the Hillary Clinton campaign. So that was when she was, so I guess that's another historical moment, I guess. This is right, her first time when she was considering running. So she had created a PAC where she was starting to just develop her brand and give money. They create these PAC political groups so that they can start to build contributions that they give to other groups to show her leadership within the party. And so I was actually able to get an internship through Trinity to work there. And it was in my senior year. So while I was doing that, I made a lot of really good connections. And at the time, Donna Brazil, which I don't know if you know her, she's a Democratic kind of political talking head. So you may like you see her on CNN or Fox News. She's not so much CNN now because of her controversy, but she's from Louisiana. She's a really like big player, political person um, in the DC area and just in Democratic politics. So she was looking for an assistant at the time. And because of my relationships at the Hillary Clinton organization, they actually suggested me to her to see if I would like to work for her. And then I met with her, interviewed, and so I became kind of like her office manager as like my first ever job when I left Trinity. And so, and she had like she had a lot of different like businesses, entrepreneurial, like she had just after being she was famous because she was the campaign manager for Al Gore. So after that didn't like that campaign lost, she just started her own company, which was part of it was her, where she would go to speaks all across the country, go to events. The other part is she taught at American University, and so she was actually a lecturer. She would do a curriculum and have to put together stuff for that. And then the other part is she just consulted, whether it's funny, one of the historical moments is like Barack Obama, before he decided to run, actually came to her to get a recommendation and get some help with trying to figure out whether or not he should run. So it was kind of a very like amazing experience of just, you know, I know he's controversial now, but like, um, oh my gosh, the Cosby guy.
Oh,
How
Bill
am I forgetting?
Cosby.
Bill Cosby used to call her all the time. Like they were close friends. Eleanor Holmes Norton, she used to run her campaign and still they're very, very close friends. And so she's just a big political player around DC. And so it opened up a lot of opportunities for me, honestly, as my first job.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
like real awesome. Right after college. Okay. What professional accomplishments are you most proud of?
ah, so I think working for Donna was really amazing. So one of the things during that time period, you know, when you think about administration, sometimes you're like, oh, it's just the person that answers the phone, but she was just a small, like she was the business, right? And so it actually was a partnership between her and I. And one of the things that still keeps us connected right now is when Katrina hit. So as I mentioned, she's from Louisiana. Our office became like almost like a female office where she's one of nine siblings, and so like trying to locate the different siblings and trying to help, they had to evacuate her dad, so all of those things I was helping her manage. We had to send stuff to Louisiana, and being able to like really help both calm her, be there as a support system for her family, and really help them navigate what was just historical, unbelievable moment for Louisiana, was, I think, something that has bonded me and her for a really long time as part of the work there. And then just being able to really understand, like, when you work for someone and you're trying to help them build their brand, how can you contribute to that work, and really thinking about ways I could bring value. And so I think that helped me to really understand like how to help create processes, help create different things that help to like really understand how someone can meet their goals. AARP, I worked at AARP for 16 years. So that was my next job after Donna. And at AARP, I think one of just professionally starting off in their like foundation, so fundraising, moving into their states. I worked in Iowa for about 6 years. I was able to really develop a lot of different opportunities. So I also then became a mentor to other operational folks that they onboarded and created a lot of like different assets that they currently use. I think at the time too was just really building on the fact that, you know, operations was not always what I thought that I would be going into. And operations is kind of like a mix of different, like, how does the business work? How do you get things done? How do you make it work really efficiently? And in a nonprofit, it's a lot harder because you have to think harder about it and really figuring out how you perfect that. So that's what led me to get my MBA at University of Maryland. And so I got that about like 3 years ago, and really just creating that brand. That's how when I was looking for an opportunity, it actually came and found me through LinkedIn. So that's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had reached out just based on just some of the work that I've done at AARP over the last 16 years in campaigns and politics, and recruited me to come over to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so a lot of the work, it's harder to explain because like a lot of the work that I've done is around like how you build like strategic relationships to help organizations really like accomplish their goals. Being able to travel like now here, I've been able to travel to South Africa, getting to go to different countries and being able to take what I do on a global scale, and seeing that there's so much value in the work that you are able to contribute as a thought partner with people when they're trying to accomplish something, and really understanding like how you build those relationships over time and network, even when you have 3 kids, even when they're great, there's a lot going on. It's been amazing. And I think the other thing is always staying true to something that I've always valued, which is I want whatever I can do to not only bring me, because I don't want to live poor. I want to make a decent salary to feed my family and to be able to do the things I do, but I also want what I'm doing to contribute to the betterment of the world, right? And I've been able to do that in every single job that I've had. And that is not something that's like, you know, easy to be able to maintain, to really be able to live your dream. So I can't say like I'm not good at like, oh, these are the things that I did really great, but I believe that, I contribute a lot to the people that I work with to be able to help them see what their value is and then also make things easier for them to do the jobs that they were hired to do. That's kind of like my skill. So I work in the background, but you can see the fruits of the labor through the other people too that I work with.
Okay. Well, what does the world need to know about Trinity? What does the world need to know about Trinity's alumni?
I think for me, I am Trinity is a space that I hope continues to cultivate women, and women of all races, genders, backgrounds, whoever steps into its doors, that I hope that Trinity continues to grow and expand and evolve with the world that's around it, right? And continues to develop women that are able to take leadership roles in all realms of life. So whether you go into like becoming a doctor or you go into government like some have, or you come into a nonprofit like I have, I would love to make sure that that space still continues to like exist for the future women leaders of the world, right? And I think Trinity's alumni, we are very diverse, right? If you look across the many, many different sectors, um, there are those of us that are entrepreneurial. I don't know if you guys, but there are a lot, I can't even name all of them, but there's just, I think we touch on every different sector there is. And I think that we come from Trinity knowing that we have the ability to lead, which is not something that every woman gets taught, particularly in other schools where it's not prioritized to really show what your voice is, what your power is, and what your abilities are. I think every Trinity woman that you can see has a really clear sense of themselves and a really clear vision for like how they're going to make a change for the future of the world, right? Because I don't even say just the United States, I think it's the world. Because a lot of my classmates are like me, where we work across different countries and across different um, religions, cultures, just a lot of different, we touch a lot of different lives. And I think that a Trinity woman is someone who's extremely confident, extremely loyal, and is always willing to kind of contribute her skill set to something. So I think the alumni are a group that I hope we do more to kind of retain and bring them back together because it's getting harder, particularly I won't lie, in my generation too, to get us to come and be and contribute back to the school some of this knowledge that we've received as well. So I'm glad to even have the opportunity to participate in this.
Yes, I'm happy to. Yes,
Yeah.
school spirit. Um, my last question, what is one vital piece of advice would you give a current and future Trinity student?
I would say really take this opportunity to really get to know what your voice is. and where you want to place your voice. I think women can be and do everything, but currently the headwinds that we're facing is that a lot of things that are happening in our society are starting to take away the rights that women have so struggled to gain a couple of decades ago. And so you guys have the opportunity to make a change in that and to really showcase your leadership in all walks of life. I hope that as a Trinity woman, you walk away with, I could be the CEO of that next company, or I could lead this group or organization, or I could be the next president of the United States. I feel like Trinity is a brand that should showcase like women have power, and that power needs to be like exercised in anything and everything that you guys do. And no matter the path that you guys take. And I do hope that you guys take the journey that you're on and leverage it and continue to like preserve that sisterhood um, throughout the different generations of Trinity women.
Okay, well, it was a pleasure meeting you, Miss Blanco.
Thank
And
you.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to let me interview you and
Thank
learning
you.
about your experience through Trinity and just a little bit of your background. But again, I appreciate you taking the time and thank you so much.
Hey, man, good luck with the rest of your interviews.